Welcome to Kya Hora New Zealand. Join me today in my conversation with Ranjna Patel, founder of Gandhi Nivas and founder and director of Tamaki Health. Ranjna has many advisory board positions, including New Zealand Police Commissioners Ethnic Forum, Diversity Works, Vice Chair Mental Health Foundation, Global Women, Executive Trustee of Total Healthcare, Middlemore Foundation, and ISSO Swaminarayan Temple. In the past, she has served on NACEW, New Zealand Lotteries, Bank of Baroda, has been the first woman president of Manukau Indian Association, chair of the New Zealand Indian Central Association's Women's Committee, and many more. Today, Ranjana is with us to talk about her project Gandhi Nivas, which has been in the news recently. Hello, Ranjana, and welcome to Kya Hora New Zealand.
Hello, Dev. Thank you for having me on.
Ranjana, Gandhi Nivas has been in the news recently after the conclusion of the 5-year study of its interventionist model to reduce family violence. What have been the salient findings, and why has it been in the news and featured everywhere? Everyone's written nice things about
it. Gandhi Nivas is a project we started back in 2014, and it's an early intervention program and working with the perpetrators that police bring to a home. Why I started this project is in 2012 and 13, 4 out of 14 women killed were Indian. And so the police commissioner at the time asked why this is happening in our community and, needed some advice. Coming from a background where you didn't have this kind of experience, I actually went to MIT to understand the issue. And what all the providers said is that we need bricks and mortar, where counselling can happen within 24 hours of an incident. So in 2014, we started this program, and from day one, we had Massey as our partners with New Zealand Police to work on this program together. So evaluation started from the very beginning. We did a first-year evaluation, and we actually showed 93% of men did not reoffend. But 12 months is not change behaviour. And so we didn't shout from the rooftops, even though it was amazing results. The 5-year longitudinal study is actually going back to 2000 and going to 2014, looking at the men's behaviour prior to intervention at Gandhi Nivas. And this data is only from the Otahu house that we've started. So that data went for another 5 years to see men's behaviour from 2000 to after intervention, what their behaviours was. Now, this was supposed to be early intervention, and that cohort of men that were early intervention, we actually saw that 69% of men did not reoffend again. On average, over the whole cohort of nearly 900 men, 57.5% did not reoffend. Those kind of data are quite astonishing. We knew we were doing good, but when you have Massey confirm what we're doing, it sort of ratified the richness of the program. What we started for Indian men, Gandhi, Man of Peace, Nivas, a home, then very quickly, within 3 months, changed to allow all ethnicities to come in. So now we're predominantly Pacific, Maori, European, then Indians overall in the homes. And we have 3 homes in Auckland. So having data like this, we actually launched the data with the police minister, the new police commissioner, Andy Costa, and the Minister Jan Logie, who's in charge of the whole intersectoral family harm intervention under justice. And they said some amazing things about the program, saying community-led programs sometimes work the best. So those kind of words get you in the media when, you know, you've got validation of Massey University, people wanting to repeat what we're doing. But it just seems to be too hard for everyone to start it off. And I'm not actually the doer. The counselling service, Sucharita and Zoya and her team at Sahata, are the ones that do the doing, the counselling service, and the police do the referrals. I've just brought everything together and provided the bricks and mortars to move ahead.
Right. Can you briefly tell us what's the kind of interventions that you do, and how is it different from what other agencies might be doing?
The intervention is police are called to a family home. New Zealand statistics are terrible. 1 in 3 women is abused, and every 4 minutes police are called to a family harm incident. When there hasn't been an offence done, but the police can see that it would be helpful to remove the man from the house, leave the woman and children in the home to be less disruptive, then they ask the man if he would like to go to a home where he can get counselling in a bed if he's got nowhere to go. Now, we only get between 10 and 12% of the men that are issued with this police safety order come to the home. A police safety order is issued with a non-offendable offence to the man, but he's removed from the home. And this can be from 24 hours to 5 days. It just recently now changed to 10 days. And because we started this program community-led, we didn't have any guidelines in how long the men could stay. And so the counselling service, what the point of difference is, it's 24/7. Most NGOs and people working in this space are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Most family harm incidents happen in the evening or in the weekend. So a complete mismatch to the service. So those are the two, times of intervention when they happen within 24 hours. If you can have the conversation with the men of what they did wrong and why she called the police, it registers. Otherwise, you tend to forget what the argument was even about, and she felt frightened. And so they come to the home and they get counselling. And this is a no blame situation. The counsellors quite often say that, most scenarios, men don't talk. That they say once they let the men explain why they did what they did, they talk and talk and talk. The researchers said we ran out of tape. That's how much the men would tell the stories. So the men get counselling. Another group go to the home, and they just make sure that the woman is safe, that is this the first time it's happened that she got frightened, or has this been going on and she's just had the courage to ring? So a point of difference there. And then if it is ongoing, they remove to women's refuge. They work with the other counselling services. And then the children, because I set up an advisory board from day one, and our psychiatrist on there says it's going to take 3 generations of children to change their behaviour, because you can tell children what to do, but if you don't set the example, if you don't do it, if the mum tolerates dad hitting and doesn't say anything, the girl thinks, oh, you just have to tolerate it, and the boy thinks, well, dad did it and mum didn't say anything. So it's normalized in their head. So just to say it's just not okay to do it, hit anybody. And the biggest point of difference in our counselling service is it's not a mainstream package. Shayata have put in a program called Hamisha, and in that they look at the person and see what their issue is. Maybe a new migrant that doesn't understand New Zealand law. So they will qualify them by saying it's not okay in New Zealand to even yell or threaten your wife. It is against the law. So it's adapting to the individual, not adapting to what mainstream prescribes you have to do. So our, sort of innovative approach to it we tailored the service to the individual. And by doing that, we've dealt with over 19 ethnicities. And so, it's worked for everyone, which has been the amazing thing. And that's why we've seen a difference in the outcomes of people not reoffending. And just say, for example, you've been through the program and then you feel as though you're going to break again, you can refer yourself back to the home. You can say, I need to remove myself from this situation. Now, to me, that is the biggest success we've had, that you have recognized your trigger point and you have removed yourself from the causing harm, and that's change behavior. So to me, that is a bigger success than all this data that's come through, that, you know, people have felt confident enough to come back.
Sure. The results are absolutely impressive. Now, my question is, how are they different from average New Zealand statistics on reoffending after counseling and stuff like that versus Gandhi Nivas? So are you on that same curve, or do you really excel?
We really excel. But in saying that, there's a lot of groups that do a lot of good work, but they don't measure. And you have to have validity in what you're trying to do. And having Massey, well or recognized institute to do the evaluation, and then getting police to verify and ratify the data has been our strength. So our research data has been absolutely way up there. They get most datas in family harm get very happy if they're 10, 15%. But I have to be honest and say, because a lot of organizations don't have that structure to evaluate what they're doing, they may be doing amazing work, but if you can't prove it, and I had to put that in place because this is not my core competency. And so having those measurables and evaluations in place was very important to me. And it was very important to the police who facilitated it. But I think, if you don't validate what you're doing, we all have good ideas, but if you're not going to make a difference, you don't keep doing it, because this is a very expensive service, because you have qualified and registered people, social workers, alcohol and drug counsellors, and then counsellors. These are all professionals working there. And that's the point of difference. Sometimes you only get one chance to have that conversation, and it's got to be the right conversation. Whether it's listening and just, sitting there and the man can acknowledge his problem, but you've got to have the right competency. I couldn't sit there and say, well, I've done a good job because I'm not a counsellor, or I haven't been through alcohol and drug rehab part of it. So, having the right competencies has been our, strength and our main success.
So what are the most, you mentioned alcohol and drugs. So what are the most of the causes, most of the reasons why there is family violence?
The why is very different. What causes it? Alcohol.
All the time?
Over 90% are alcohol-related incidents. So, Thursday night, Friday night, a couple of drinks, something is said, and the situation gets to an aggravation point. So the reason why you snap, I don't know. Everybody snaps for different reasons at different times. We've got crowded homes, we've got financial strains. Now with COVID, it's even more prominent, where people especially the blue collar jobs are lost, and it's very hard to make ends meet if you don't have a regular income. Someone's lost their job in a whole household. There's a lot of trigger points, but or a new baby's born and you're working all day and the baby cries all night. There's millions of reasons. I can't put my hand on my heart and give you one reason.
Sure. Speaking of COVID, was there a spike during the lockdown?
Yes, we had so many call outs. You can imagine, a 2-bedroom house with 2 adults and 2-3 children, and being locked and cooped up in there. The counselling service was overrun with phone calls, just wanting to talk, what to do, how to do. And so they were really, really busy. We didn't have that many incidents of men coming to the home. Because of COVID, we actually had to halve the men in the home. We normally can have up to 10 a week, whereas we had to halve that so that we could do the proper isolation. But we think it's going to spike even more now with the reality hitting in once the next wage subsidy stops as well.
Sure, sure. Are you geared for that?
I think we are. Our capacity is only 10 to 12 in a home. It's only a 3-4 bedroom home. And so capacity is very limited, but I think that capacity also makes it a very personalised service, that, you know, you can talk to this person. You know, people will ring to say, can I take you out, the counsellors, can I take you out for a coffee? Now, for a man to ring to say that, it's asking for help, but it's not asking for help. So, you know, that to me is the recognising coming through. You know, the phone counselling has increased a lot. So the, you know, counselling services is telling me.
Or do you at any given time have all your beds occupied?
Lots of times we do. Because the men actually share the rooms. The one, like the Papakura house, one room has 3 beds in it. The others are all 2 beds in the room. Very simple, clean, tidy rooms they are. And what we've found is having that peer support of the men. You'll have a big Maori guy, a big Tongan guy, a little Indian guy, a little Chinese man, and saying, oh yeah, he looks like he hits his wife. And then the penny drops. We're all here because of the same reason. And that's that peer support that they get. My second evaluation was actually qualitative. First one was quantitative, then qualitative. And the qualitative showed exactly how that the peer support actually did enhance the men's ability to stay away. Like, you know, one man saying, well, you know, you're 18, what in the hell are you doing? Just having those conversations, don't do what I'm doing, you know. Having that conversation was very important, because our age has been from 18 to 84. You know, the 84-year-old man couldn't understand why his wife rang, because she'd been, you know, tolerating it all her life.
Ranjna, your family started out in healthcare, you know, started from nothing, and it's the stuff of legend. And you had, you know, this huge behemoth which you built in a lifetime, which many people don't do in a single lifetime. Now, what was the compulsion? What was the motivation to go into something like Gandhi Nivas and give back to society?
I think, you know, I started sitting on advisory boards about 12 years ago, and I've been on the police advisory board for 11 years. And I think it was a challenge. You know, John, the district commander here, John Tim, said, there's a problem in your community. And, you know, most of us will go, nah, not in my community. And then he says, data doesn't lie. You know, 4 women killed out of 14 were Indian. Data is black and white. And that's 29% when we were about 3% at that time. You know, so it was completely out of kilter. And so I think when we get challenged, and I think, you know, as in healthcare, we had a lot of obstacles put in our path. You know, from the day Gandhi arrived in New Zealand, his degree wasn't recognised. No one would say, you know, if you sit this exam, it took 10 months for someone to say, sit this American exam and we will give you registration. So bang on, he did it, got his registration, and, you know, straight away started working. Then we started general practice. I became the receptionist, the cleaner, the accountant, the typist, everyone. And he looked after the clinical quality. And he knew if you look after the patients, the business will grow. And we'd borrowed 110% because, yes, you're right, he didn't come with anything to New Zealand. I was an 18-year-old when I got married, and so, you know, didn't have anything. And so we had to survival. And I think, you know, that's a story that's still common now. You come to New Zealand and it's a matter of survival, and we will do whatever it takes to survive. And that's working, you know, from when we started medicine, it was 9 to 12 and 3 to 5. And we just looked at each other and said, we can't pay our bills with this. So we started from 8 to 6. And when we started growing, our peers started complaining, saying, you know, that Indian couple must be doing something dodgy because they're growing so much. Not the fact that we thought access was most important in Otara. And that's what we worked on, access. And hence, you know, barriers were put up, and those barriers became our opportunities. So all the obstacles the bureaucrats put in for us, we turned them into opportunities. So when John Timms challenged me, I thought, well, let's see what we can do. And the day we started Gandhi Nivas, 1st of December, is the day Owen Glenn report came out at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars. To say the same thing, men need help to change behaviour. You have to go to the root cause of family harm, which is the perpetrator, which is the man. Otherwise, as the Papakura district commander said to me, in the last 3 months, I've been to 5 houses with one man, 5 different women, because the man is just not changing his behaviour. And so that's a root cause of it. And if you don't help the root cause, it's just going to be the same old, same old. So we had a lot of criticism when we started, saying, why are you working with the scum of the earth? They're the perpetrators. They just need to go into jail. But we're not fixing the problem. We're putting a Band-Aid on it and then putting them back into, you know, the same environment where they're going to do it again.
What next for Gandhi Nivas and for yourself?
Well, you know, the Minister Jan Logie and the Stuart Nash have both said they would like this replicated because we need to make a dent in the terrible statistics New Zealand has in family harm. And so, you know, I'm going to Wellington in the next couple of days. And so hopefully I meet with the right people that will be able to say, yes, let's replicate this. If they don't, it's a very expensive service. If they don't, you know, I don't know what the future for the 3 homes I've got in Auckland will be. And if they don't want to replicate it, that's fine. We may just live with the 3 houses, or we'll just see what else we can do. I've been very fortunate in being able to do something like this because, you know, without police, you know, the commissioners from Mike Bush to John Timms, all these senior people supporting you to do this, and then having an amazing counselling service that doesn't just work in one way. They will work around the individual, and they will work with what needs doing, whether it's helping the man who's never had a job write a CV. Minister Stuart Nash says, how many lives have you saved? You've actually saved a lot of lives because of what you're doing, but that's not measurable. And so you can't do an ROI because it's too much, you know, it's hard to measure.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Ranjna. I really appreciate you coming on Kya Hora New Zealand for Indian Weekender. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for having me.